Now, when it comes to Kendrick Lamar, well, now if you're ready to see how with the Ice Spice Man flopping, Young Thug coping, and the rest of that lame old side of hip-hop just ending their own careers, well, Kendrick Lamar just responded to being the first rapper ever to have a walking cupcake make a concept album about him and is showing that something huge may be coming very soon. And with all of these crashes, well, that he has not engaged in any of the lame stuff and he has just used it as another opportunity to win and win big. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And now really, as all these crashes in rap just reached an entire new low and at the same time, Kendrick Lamar is back outside and has reached a new high. Make sure to leave that like because if you're an Iceman, you are never going to be more angry. Because in an industry and genre in hip-hop right now where everything has been filled with losers, delusion, rants, rats, chaos, and crashes, well, within this ladder of trash that we can call this side of rap in 2025 that hopefully is no longer relevant in 2026. Well, over all of them for the one guy who has had things rocking for the best reasons and who put all of this in motion in terms of the fall-offs to happen in the first place. Kendrick Lamar seemingly right now is sitting back and smiling somewhere because after all of these major players have revealed their hands and well, in some cases have just been exposed for who they really are and now we all know everything that they have ever stood for and rapped about is fictional. Well, again, Kendrick Lamar is representing the very opposite of that and has never stood taller as a beacon of greatness and inspiration in rap. As within the midst of all these grown man babies crying about not getting features and well, the Ice Spice Man doing whatever the Ice Spice Man does because what do we even classify this as? Kendrick Lamar has came back outside and sent the world another message loud and clear. And how Kendrick has done it this time is through no other measure than with a new campaign that he has rolled out for Gatorade. And as the NFL is kicking off and the NBA season is coming up soon and the WNBA playoffs are going on, well, Kendrick Lamar now has joined and solidified himself as an elite member of a club that only athletes were ever able to be in at one point. And Kendrick is not just featured here for a second or two within this and that's it. But he has delivered an entire new speech. And really, this is some of the most we have heard him speak this entire year for that matter, which happens to be Hey Now from GNX as opposed to Peekaboo, which was the song they were using for the first few iterations of this campaign. And so now in a time where everybody is waiting for a real rapper to step up to the podium and just speak, Kendrick's first words since all of these crashes have been, and I quote, "How much sweat are you willing to lose?" And now following that up, he ended up saying, "Because when you do that, you can surpass the hype. You inspire generation after generation. You can compete against anything." And closing things out, Kendrick asked the question one more time. So, how much are you willing to lose? That's how you know how much you are willing to win. And now with this, what I think the first takeaway should be is that we need to keep Kendrick Lamar alongside Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Cooper Flagg, and Caitlin Clark. Because really with him never speaking more truth and with him actually practicing this and this is why he is winning so much. Well, compared to the ideologies that are within both fields right now, Kendrick is really way more like these athletes who are trying to chase GOAT status in their fields than any of these rappers who are chasing the title of Rat or Pinocchio. Going seriously with this as we are, and this is coming off of a moment in rap where we have seen more than ever that these big-name people who have tried to run the genre for over a decade at this point are softer than tissue paper. Kendrick echoing these words about really putting in actual work, inspiring generations, being willing to lose something and talking about how you only know how much you want to win by how much you want to give up and put in. These words have just never been more important. And for every loser who is running around and calling themselves a rapper, they need to hear this out because they would be doing better. And really, for Kendrick Lamar and these Gatorade collabs to keep dropping every time somebody is talking. Well, now as the last time that this dropped, it came out when Joey and Drake were both yapping towards him. Really, in terms of the timing and messaging, this could not have dropped at a better time. And speaking of timing, well, now in addition to this, what could not have lined up better for every single thing going on is that, well, despite Drake trying to be Martin Scorsese at home or Young Thug showing that he really is an actor, Kendrick Lamar being as real as ever, ended up taking multiple Emmys for his Super Bowl halftime performance while also in the same night he took home VMAs for Not Like Us, which makes it crazier just because of the timing of this all. Overall, with this, Kendrick just keeps making history. But now speaking of the Emmys, which is a lot bigger of an accomplishment, what's crazy about this is that Kendrick Lamar has now become the third person in all of history, and yes, I said history to have multiple Emmys, Grammys, and a Pulitzer Prize. And when you just see that Kendrick is ascending to heights that once again, not just other rappers, but artists in general have never been able to reach. Well, while the Ice Spice Man lovers may try to say this is all because the industry has set things up to be this way as they wear their OVO-themed academics crafted tinfoil hats, I got bad news for them. It's not. And Kendrick Lamar is just winning right now for truly standing on things unlike a lot of these other people could even fathom the very logic of. And again, this is why he has earned the status to stand next to the biggest rising star in basketball, the #1 pick of the NBA draft, and arguably two of the biggest stars in all of pro football. And so really, just to see Kendrick Lamar continue to move up and accomplish things, at the rate we've been seeing rappers just crash out, cancel, and embarrass themselves recently, I feel like all of this has never been more of an accomplishment in of itself. And so now with Kendrick Lamar, beyond anything going on with his rivals and him taking home Emmys to put next to his Grammys and Pulitzer Prize. Now another key thing that we need to note within this entire situation and in Kendrick Lamar's reaction and response to all of the stuff that has been going on and really around his name at that well before we go any further into how Kendrick Lamar has responded to everything and how he has really just been waiting for us to catch up to everything he has been saying is that there has been a rumor bubbling up in the rap world right now which is speculating on the fact that Kendrick Lamar could be dropping very soon. And this is all because as Devin Malik, who is on TD, played at the Pop-Out, and has done great work with names like Doy and Schoolboy Q, well, he put out a statement on social media that was alluding to something that really did seem like it was playing very well into Kendrick Lamar as a whole. And as he was the first person to confirm that a new Kendrick Lamar album last year was coming out, which of course ended up becoming GNX. Well, what I will say is just be ready to potentially see Kendrick Lamar spin the block and come back around again with something huge, honestly, in any moment. But even if this does not come true and in the meantime, well, from Kendrick and the world of TD just continuing to lock in and work on music like we are seeing right here to then all of Kendrick Lamar's people and close friends in this moment speaking on the time we are in as well. Well, now overall after Drake just went weirder than ever to diss Kendrick Lamar on the album that he is dedicating to him entirely if he actually ever drops it. Because let's just be real, the Ice Spice Man's White Man album is just a Kendrick Lamar infatuation record and that's all it is. Whether we're talking about Lubri or Young Thug and the call he had, which despite many apologies he has put out, he never went back on what he said about Kendrick Lamar. Overall, within this moment, what we now know and what we have found out is that Kendrick Lamar seemingly already knew about this situation with Young Thug and knew the response and disses that went his way all the way back from this phone call and I guess the fallout that it may have caused. And really, Kendrick must have known that Young Thug was disrespecting his own cousin, Baby Keem, while at the same time showing Drake all of the love and support possible, no matter how much of a loser and hypocrite he looked for this. And the reason why we do know this is because just like with everything else that has been important to Kendrick's story and the story of hip-hop ever since he came back outside with Like That, well, Kendrick Lamar has left everything essential right within his music. And what Kendrick Lamar already seemingly did almost a year ago was address this entire beef. And just like the master lyricist and writer that he is, he was just waiting for all of us to catch up and realize what this was about. And so what I'm talking about is another layer that has just been unraveled in Kendrick Lamar's blockbuster year defining 2024 album GNX. And of course within this all-time great body of work. Well, the warning that this record and its statements have been to the entire rap game and players within it, which now has grown bigger than we could have ever thought in terms of the scope of what we understand. Because seemingly now, while we already knew that Kendrick dissed and called out Drake here, 50 Cent, and Puff, and although they weren't disses, he sent out other messages to names like Lil Wayne and Snoop Dogg. Well, we also now know that in the group of disses that this album was made for, Young Thug was another person who Kendrick was going after. And now, while there is a definitive disc that when we know the story Young Thug told, well, to just put it flatly, the bars that Kendrick said align perfectly, well, I'm also going to go a little deeper into all of this and suggest that the Young Thug disses could have started on whacked out murals and well, in Kendrick's infamous bar where he said that people are cackling about blank, which we all figured was Puff at the time. And then, of course, Kendrick follows this up and says that all of you were on trial. Well, and it does seem like other people did theorize this when the record dropped. But overall, Kendrick could have been named dropping Young Thug here. And when you see the gun line from Euphoria and think about this, what I personally think is that this line is blurred out to reflect Puff and Jeffrey's names. And that's the art of it. And that is the mastery of the line and of itself, which is why Kendrick blurred it out, which also could have been to avoid some other troubles as well in terms of the consequences of him calling them out. But now alongside this with the track Squabble Up, well, seemingly with the second half of this song and in the closing verse, Kendrick Lamar did address this entire situation. And what I will say is that while there is nothing to verify that Kendrick Lamar heard the call that just came out of Young Thug crashing out over not getting a Kendrick verse and everything that he went to ramble on about that. Really, when you just look at the bars that Kendrick has, everything does seem to line up. And it either does feel like Kendrick Lamar either got a hold of the call directly or he just got the message relayed to him about how mad Jeffrey was about not getting a feature from him for his album and maybe some of the hypocrisy that he showed when he was mad that Kendrick just declined him and didn't want to give him a drop. And so let's just get into this verse that when you understand there is no way that any of this is a coincidence and really understanding the full scope of the fallout all on Drake's side of hip-hop, which seems to be worse than ever because of Young Thug letting all of their issues out there for all of us to know. Honestly, Kendrick Lamar also does seem like he's calling out other rappers here like Lil Baby and close affiliates of this circle. And maybe there's even some more people who we don't know about here. But now what we do know definitively is that Kendrick Lamar came onto this track to expose the fakes and really just get them all in their feelings because Drake is no longer the #1 guy who's going to make sure that they can get away with selling wolf tickets until Kendrick silenced it. And with a bar like that, Kendrick is saying how the rap game was ran by fakes until he jumped in and changed everything, which of course obviously does seem to speak to the larger portion of this side in hip-hop and the things they were getting away with. But now where things close in on Young Thug, it's right within the next lines where after calling out the fakes, he straight up says, "Pipe down Young, these some whole other politics." And obviously, I mean, you don't need me to explain this. The word Young is obviously calling out Young Thug by name here without affecting him directly. And I think this is what is very important about the track. When you consider the real-world circumstances that Young Thug was in at the time, it makes sense why Kendrick both didn't want to expose too much and seemingly push him while he was down. Although of course there was so much more to the story that we didn't know. But then of course now as Kendrick Lamar just goes in further on this verse and asks, "Tell me why you rap if it's fictional." And then bigger than that says, "Tell me why you fed if you criminal." Then of course he has that iconic line where he says, "Can I get a drop?" And he says, "No." This is where the real disingenuous of this is because first off, well, Young Thug asking Kendrick for a drop and him telling him no is literally what did happen when he tried to get a feature for his Business's Business album. But then before that with these lines, he does not just call out Young Thug for being a fake rapper who, to be honest, did way more harm than good by rapping from as fake of a place as he always had. But then in addition with that whole Fed and criminal section, Kendrick is not just alluding back to the Gunna bar and bringing that full circle and saying that he knows stuff that would make him look like a saint in comparison to maybe what Young Thug was doing. But then Fed also has multiple meanings here as it's not just alluding to Young Thug's phone call hotline, but it's also referring to this. And now when you just see Kendrick Lamar rapping all this like he had a crystal ball or something, it all makes so much sense now. And honestly, in the bigger picture, the entire rap industry could have already known every single thing that we heard about Young Thug and the fan pages just got a hold of it. Who put these things out there because especially when we see Kendrick Lamar allude to so much of what happened in this situation right within a song that dropped in November and even just in general this verse being about the decay that this other side in hip-hop is going through which really has never felt more prevalent than right now. I mean overall these lyrics could just not have lined up better. And I think what we can draw from all of that is that Kendrick Lamar knew this day would come eventually and we would put these pieces together when we would find out the truth. And now speaking of putting the pieces together, well, as we are seeing a rap world where the party is finally coming to an end, and at the same time as Young Thug is rat status and Drake is a full-blown courtside Karen, well, Kendrick is halfway to EGOT status and he has become as marketable and household of a name as Josh Allen or Cooper Flagg. Well, once again, Kendrick is continuing to put on for the craft of hip-hop in every sense of the word and is showing how high you can really reach. And at the same time as we are seeing guys all over just give rap a bad name and show the opposite of what you should. Well, really from Kendrick Lamar leading the way and taking the profession to places nobody would have ever thought it could have ever reached and keeping his name and music as a mainstay for now the second NFL season in a row, which I do think is a really valuable indicator of the real-world impact Kendrick Lamar is having as of course the NFL is one of the biggest brands you could possibly get a hold of. And well, it literally holds the marquee event in our calendar. Well listen, I think I speak for all of us when I say to Kendrick, just keep going. Because one thing that he has now proved more than ever is that Kendrick Lamar is not just a loser rapper's kryptonite and the reason why so many fakes are crashing out to new lows. But Kendrick is also the reason why rap will reach new heights that nobody else has ever taken it to. And when you just put all this into perspective and even understand that Young Thug phone call where he rants about how Kendrick Lamar doesn't want to work with Wham or Moneybagg Yo, and he's focused on sticking to his own thing and just trying to build his own identity. Everything just makes more sense than ever, which overall is showing that these losers don't hate Kendrick Lamar for any of the weird narratives and loopholes and hoops that they try to jump through. But it's just all because these guys are fake, lazy losers who have been trying to grift such an important art form. And as they keep failing, this guy winning is just driving them mad. And so now with all this said, let me know what do you think about everything going on with Kendrick Lamar's response. And if you made it to this point in the video, channel memberships are now live. And if you want exclusive emojis to talk to Lubbery's losers with and exclusive perks such as getting your name featured in the end of these videos, well listen, you can join right now in the description. And now if you want to see how right before this, well, as Kendrick Lamar has never been winning more, Drake has never been failing more. And we are really at a point where not just did Drake get exposed by Young Thug, but he may cancel the entire Iceman album. Check out the suggested video.